So here's a question. How do you measure something you can't see?
Right.
I mean, think about it. If it's hot outside, you've got a thermometer. If you need to know how long something is, you grab a ruler.
We have metrics for basically everything in the physical world.
Exactly. But what if you wanted to measure, say, the voltage of a human soul? Or the truth of a statement someone just made?
It sounds like something you just feel, like intuition.
It does. But the material we're diving into today argues that this is actual calibratable science.
It's a huge claim. I mean, we're so used to thinking of things like love or fear or integrity as, subjective
The
feelings.
soft skills?
Yeah, soft skills, things
Yeah.
that change with your mood.
Yeah.
But this work argues they are measurable, definable energy fields. They aren't just feelings. They're locations on a map.
And that is exactly our mission today. We're doing a deep dive into Transcending the Levels of Consciousness by David R. Hawkins.
MD, Ph.D.
And this isn't your average self-help book.
Yeah.
It's really framed as a comprehensive map of human experience. But before we get into the map, we have to talk about the guy who drew it. Because Dr. Hawkins had a pretty unique resume, didn't he?
He really did. And that background is what gives this all such distinct weight. He was a psychiatrist for 50 years.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah. He ran the largest psychiatric practice in New York at one point. So he was dealing with the most severe cases you can imagine. But at the same time, he was a researcher looking into the nature of consciousness itself.
And this is where the muscle testing comes in, right? Kinesiology.
Exactly. He spent decades using it to calibrate what he called the truth level of everything.
We should probably clarify muscle testing for anyone who hasn't seen it, because it can sound a little esoteric.
You can. The basic idea his research used is that the human body is like a sophisticated biocomputer. It's connected to this universal database of consciousness.
Okay.
And the research suggests the body goes instantly strong when it's in the presence of something true or life-affirming.
And it goes weak in the presence of something false.
Or life-negating, yeah. And his teams did millions of these calibrations over many years to create this logarithmic scale of human experience.
So they mapped everything.
Yeah.
From the absolute lowest of the low to the highest of the high, on a scale of 1 to 1,000.
Right. 1 is just barely existing, like bacteria. And 1,000 is the level of the great spiritual avatars of history. Figures like Buddha, Jesus, Krishna.
Full enlightenment.
Full enlightenment. And
Falsehood.
the idea is that every single person, every book, every song, every political idea, it all vibrates somewhere on this scale.
It's like a frequency address, but there's one number on this map that just jumps out. Everything seems to hinge on it, the number 200.
200 is the fulcrum. It is the dividing line.
Between what he calls force and power.
Exactly. Everything below 200 is force. It's draining, it's negative, it's all about survival, it takes energy from you. Everything above 200 is power. That's where life becomes creative, benign, and, self-sustaining.
Okay, but this is where the stats got me. I honestly had to read this twice. According to his research, approximately 78% of the entire world's population calibrates below level 200.
It's a sobering statistic, isn't it? It suggests that nearly 80% of humanity is operating in a state dominated by these primitive survival-based instincts.
78%.
Now, he does note that in America, it's different. It's closer to 49% below that line.
Yeah.
But globally, the vast majority of people are operating in the zone of force.
Well, that explains a lot about the daily news. So if we really want to understand the world, or even just our own bad days, we have to understand what's going on in that bottom 78%.
We have to go into the basement of the psyche.
So that's the plan. We're going down into the levels of the ego shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, and desire. We need to figure out what makes them tick.
And as any good architect will tell you, you can't find the stairs going up if you don't even know where you're standing.
So let's start with the why, though. Why do we even have these levels? If evolution is supposed to be about improvement, why is the default setting for so many of us stuck down here? Is the ego just a mistake?
That's the common misconception, that the ego is the enemy we have to fight. But Hawkins puts it in an evolutionary context. The ego is a biological inheritance. It's a survival tool.
A survival tool that makes us miserable. That sounds like a bad trade.
Well, think about the very early stages of animal evolution. Early life didn't have an inner source of energy or joy or anything like that.
So it had to get it from the outside.
It had to get it from the outside. It had to eat. It had to conquer. It had to compete. It was a mechanism of literally taking energy from others to sustain itself.
So it's inherently predatory.
Precisely. Below level 200, life is rapacious. Hawkins compares it to the consciousness of, say, sharks or reptiles. They see everything as either a food source, a rival, or a threat.
There's no us. There's only me against the world.
Right. And we still have that ancient hardware running in the background of our modern brains.
He calls it the narcissistic core.
Yes. Even though we live in these complex societies with laws and coffee shops, that primitive ego still sees other people as rivals. It's possessive, it's competitive, it wants to get, and the brain physiology is actually different below 200. It's wired for that fight or flight survival.
Until you hit 200.
Yeah. At 200, which is the level of courage, you start to see what you could call herbivore energy emerge. You see maternal caring. You see pack loyalty, a concern for others. Life moves from predatory to benign.
So the goal isn't to hate the ego or beat ourselves up for having these feelings.
Not at all.
It's just an old operating system we're trying to update.
Exactly. The idea is to transcend it, not to judge it. But to do that, you have to be willing to look it in the eye.
Okay, let's look at the very bottom then, the lowest of the low, level 20, shame.
Shame is incredibly dangerous. The way Hawkins describes it is perilously proximate to death.
That sounds really intense. I usually think of shame as just being embarrassed, like you trip in public or something.
That's embarrassment. Shame is much deeper. It's that feeling of losing face, of wanting to be invisible. Think about that phrase, I wanted to crawl into a hole and die.
Right.
In primitive societies, shame meant banishment, and banishment meant death. You couldn't survive alone. So biologically, shame feels like your survival is ending. It's a complete retraction of life energy.
And the text says it can actually lead to cruelty, which seems kind of counterintuitive.
It's a defense mechanism. When someone is deep in shame, the internal pressure is just unbearable, so they often compensate by becoming rigid or hypercritical. He points out that shamed children often take it out on animals or other kids.
Projecting it outward.
It's a way of projecting that internal self-hatred onto something else just to get some relief. The bully is almost always the one carrying the most shame.
Okay, so moving up just a tiny bit on the ladder, we hit level 30, guilt.
Guilt, the great manipulator.
Society really runs on this, doesn't it? You should have done this. Why didn't you do that?
It's used to punish and control, absolutely. But what's fascinating is how guilt operates internally. It leads to self-hatred, which is obvious, but also to accident proneness.
Accident proneness, you mean like actually tripping over things?
Yes. Hawkins argues that if you're holding on to deep, unresolved guilt, your subconscious demands punishment. It believes in an eye for an eye. So if the world won't punish you, you'll punish yourself. You'll lose your keys, back your car into a pole, catch a cold right before a big trip.
Subconscious retribution.
It is.
But there's a concept here that I found really challenging. He talks about the ego getting a payoff from these negative states. He calls it juice.
The juice,
Yeah.
yes. It's a crucial concept to understand why we get so stuck.
Because logically, nobody wants to feel guilty. It's awful. So why do we hold on to it?
It's because the ego loves to be the victim. It loves to be the martyr. Look how I suffer. Look how bad I am. It's a twisted way of feeling important.
If you can't be famous for being great, be infamous for being the worst.
Exactly. So even when you're beating yourself up, the ego is secretly high-fiving itself. It's screaming, I exist, even if it's through pain. That's why guilt is so sticky.
We think we're being moral by feeling bad, but he's saying it's just a form of vanity.
Because you're making it all about you. And that guilt often gets projected outward as hate. We see sinners everywhere because we feel like a sinner inside.
Okay, so we have shame at 20, guilt at 30, then we hit level 50. Apathy. This one just sounds boring.
It looks like passivity from the outside, but inside it's a state of total despair, hopelessness. It's that heavy feeling of, I can't.
But he clarifies that, right? That I can't is usually a cover for something else.
Right. He says, I can't is almost always a cover for I won't. It's a concealed stubbornness.
But the energy is so low they actually feel helpless.
They do.
Oh.
This is the level of the derelict, the person who has given up. They lack the energy to even feed themselves. They become dependent.
He mentions the Peñas training in this section. Why bring that up here?
Because APS was famous for confronting this exact state. It was brutal, in a way. It forced people to realize that I can't is a lie.
Yeah.
It stripped away all the excuses and made people take responsibility, dragging them out of apathy.
So shame wants to disappear, guilt wants to punish, and apathy wants to give up. Then we finally start to see a tiny spark of energy at level 75. Grief.
And this might surprise people. Grief feels terrible, right? Sadness, loss. But on this scale, it's a significant step up from apathy.
How is crying a step up from doing nothing?
Because crying takes energy. Hawkins mentions that when apathetic patients in psychiatric care start to cry, the doctors know they're getting better.
They finally have enough energy to feel the loss.
They're moving. They're sawing out.
So what keeps people stuck in grief, sometimes for decades?
Attachment. Grief is based on the illusion of mine. My watch, my job, my partner. The ego projects a special quality onto something, thinking the source of happiness is in that external thing.
If I lose this, my happiness is gone forever.
Precisely. But the specialness was just a projection of your mind. Healing from grief is about realizing the source of happiness is actually inside you, not in the things you lost.
Okay, so we're climbing the ladder. We've cried it out in grief. Now we hit level 100. Fear.
Ah, fear, the great motivator.
It runs the world, doesn't it? Insurance, security systems, the stock market.
It's everywhere. And unlike guilt or grief, which are often about the past, fear is obsessed with the future. It's anticipation. What if this happens?
The what-if game. The media thrives on it.
It glues your eyes to the screen. He makes a really critical point about kids, though. Adults can watch a horror movie and know it's fake. A child's brain can't always distinguish. He can implant this view of the world as a fundamentally scary place.
So how do we handle it? Because just telling someone don't be afraid never works.
No, suppression is useless. He suggests a specific technique. He calls it the "and then what" technique.
I thought this was brilliant. Can you walk us through it?
So you take a fear. Let's say, I'm afraid I'll lose my jobs. You don't resist it. You just ask, okay, say I lose my job, and then what?
Well, then I'll run out of money, and then what?
Then I won't be able to pay my mortgage, and then what?
Then I'll lose the house, and then what?
I'll be homeless, and then what? I'll starve, and then what?
It almost always ends at I'll die.
Almost always. The root of all fear, no matter how small it seems, is the fear of death. And once you look at it, the monster shrinks. You realize, okay, even if the absolute worst happens, I'm still here, I can handle it. The fear just collapses because you've turned the lights on.
Taking the monster out of the closet.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've moved through the paralyzing stuff. Now we get to level 125, desire. And this one feels different. It feels like go time.
It is. At 125, you finally have enough energy to go get it. Desire is the engine of the entire economy. It's ambition. It's I want.
Which sounds good. I mean, without desire, would we accomplish anything?
It's certainly better than apathy. But the trap of desire is that it is insatiable. It is the hungry ghost.
The idea that just one more thing will finally make me happy.
Right. He talks about multimillionaires who are literally addicted to making more money. They don't need it. They can't even spend it. But the desire level is an addiction. It's the craving. You're constantly running away from the feeling of lack.
And there's this concept of glamour mentioned. It's not about fashion, is it?
No, he's using an esoteric term here. Glamour is when the ego projects a magical allure onto something. You see a car or a person or a job, and you think, if I get that, I will finally be complete.
It sparkles.
It sparkles. But it's a hallucination. The sparkle isn't in the thing. It's in your projection, which is why when you finally get it, the sparkle fades, and you're already looking for the next thing.
The hedonic treadmill.
That's it. And esoterically, this energy is located in the solar plexus. It's that gut-level craving. It's what turns a simple want into a desperate need.
That's the key shift, right? I'd like to have that becomes I must have that or I'll die.
That's the ego hijacking the survival drive. It creates desperation, which, ironically, usually pushes the thing you want further away.
So we've covered the gauntlet. Shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire. This is the realm of the ego. This is the realm of force.
It is. And remember, all of these levels are based on that animal instinct to survive. They aren't evil. They're just primitive and inefficient. They're exhausting.
And they're unhappy. We have to circle back to the happiness stats because that's the real so what here.
It maps so clearly. At the lowest levels, shame and guilt, the happiness rate is around 1 to 4%. You're miserable almost all the time.
That's just heartbreaking.
It is. But here's the light at the end of the tunnel. When you cross that critical line at 200, when you move into courage, your happiness rate jumps to 55%.
That's a massive leap. You go from miserable most of the time to happy more than half the time just by crossing that one line.
And it just keeps going up from there.
Yeah.
By the time you get to acceptance and love, it's near 100%.
So the million-dollar question, how do we move up?
It starts with what Hawkins calls recontextualization.
Unpack that for us.
It means changing the context in which you view your life. Instead of seeing life as a series of threats or punishments, which is the view from the lower levels.
You start to see them as opportunities. So the bad thing that happened isn't a punishment. It's more like a weight at the gym.
Exactly. It's resistance training. It's karma working itself out. When you stop resisting a feeling and start asking, what can I learn from this? You automatically step into courage. You stop being a victim.
You take back the power.
You step from force into power. You realize you aren't your feelings. You're the witness of your feelings. And that slight detachment is the rocket fuel that lifts you up.
It's empowering to know we're not stuck. Just because you feel fear today doesn't mean you are at the level of fear permanently.
We fluctuate constantly, but our set point, our average home base, can rise. And as it does, life just gets easier.
I want to leave our listeners with this one thought from the book that really stuck with me. He says that one's level of consciousness represents karmic inheritance, which sounds heavy. But then he says we are all born under optimal conditions for our own evolution.
It's a beautiful paradox. It means that whatever mess you feel you're in right now, whatever fear, whatever guilt, whatever lack, it's custom designed. It's the perfect weight for you to lift to get stronger.
So if the world looks dark to you right now, or scary, or just not enough,
You have to ask yourself, is it the world that needs to change? Or is it simply the lens you are viewing it through? Because if you change the level of your consciousness, you literally change the world you see.
change the lens, change the world. That's a powerful place to leave it. We've only just scratched the surface of these lower levels.
The journey upwards is infinite.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.